Good afternoon. We'll call this meeting of the Fargo School Board to order. Thank you so much for being here. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. There is an audience here, but there is no one signed up to speak, but welcome everybody. We'll hear from you shortly. We'll start with FEA report.
Hello.
Hello.
As the new school year starts, we're kind of thinking of what kind of report that I should be giving every time that I come. And so I'm asking for the board's help here to let me know of issues or things, not issues, but what things would you like me to report on? What interests you might have from me, other than me just saying that we're doing a Gene Week kind of thing, whatever. Any kind of information you would like from me. I'd be open to any suggestions that you would have. And that, just to let you know that I'll be asking, like, if you have any questions from now on or anything, that so you can just kind of open the communication more so between me and the board. And so feel free to, anything you might have or interest you have in what I'd have to share, please let me know that. And I'd be happy to share it each time I'm here. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Unless anyone has a thought right off the top of your head, that is a good, thoughtful question. And anyone who would like to send their suggestions to Anne Marie, she can forward them on to you. But does anybody have a response? Okay, well, thanks. We really appreciate that. Thank you. So I will ask, I'm assuming Dr. Schatz will get Dr. Gross started, or do you want me to go right to Dr. Gross? Okay, so Dr. Gross, if you would launch us into the senior high report.
Certainly. Thank you very much. For the past few years, we have done a senior exit survey, and with that, our high school principals have come and shared that, or the results, with you. And tonight, Mr. Dahlin, Dr. Birch, and Mr. Cody are here to share with you the results of last year's senior survey. And they've prepared a slideshow. They will share some of the information and then be available for any questions that you might have after the report. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Dahlin and the team.
I don't think it's on.
Oh.
There we go.
Okay, so let's start again. First of all, I want to thank you for this opportunity to come in front of you, and it's one of the things that we do enjoy doing is sharing our results. But I also want to just thank you as a board member. I understand, and I think our community understands the amount of time and effort that goes into providing leadership and direction. And I just want to say thank you to veteran board members that have been here for long periods of time, to then also the new ones and so forth. So I just know that there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes. I just want to say thank you to your efforts, sir. The first thing I would just say is that, as Bob talked about there, the class of 2016, we survey our students at each one of the 3 comprehensive high schools. I think later on, David Berkman, the principal at Woodrow, will be sharing information from his school. And so we've got lots of questions on the survey, and then we summarize the results, and that's what we're sharing with you tonight. The results are summarized into 3 categories. I'll take the post-high school plans. Dr. Birch will take the academic results, and Mr. Cody will take the school climate and culture part of it. Well, I think one of the interesting things about our students is that many of them are going on to 4-year institutions, and you can see there that 4-year colleges is the indicated choice of our students. So nearly 3 out of every 4 students are attending or expected to attend a 4-year college. Another 17% up there in the light green area, vocational and technical schools, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit later. And then a smaller percentage of our kids are going off to work or military or other categories. Again, I think what our goal at high school level is to make sure that our students are college and career ready. And I think this indicates that definitely most of our kids are going off to 4-year or technical or vocational schools. Started asking this question just a few years ago about where are they planning on attending college, and from this results of this survey you can see that most of our kids are staying in state, and maybe a slight growth. I don't know if you could say that's substantial, but again, the 2016 survey indicates that 61% of our kids are going off to a school in state. And again, part of that is probably in recognition that our state does provide some tuition support and the academic and technical scholarships that are provided to students. So we've seen some slight increases in that over the course of time. And I've been here for a long time, so I think more of our students, even from, well, okay, not that long. I did start back in okay, we won't go there. And then this is indicating from our most local colleges here where our kids are attending, and you can see that a huge percentage of our students and the numbers are generated there that are going to NDSU. And that's actually changed too over the course of time. I think as NDSU has elevated its status to Division I and then UND following, you can see that our kids are staying here in the metro area. And again, still supporting Concordia College and the University of Minnesota Moorhead. And then you can see the technical schools off there to the right. Again, I was thinking about this earlier today, and maybe this graph is a little bit hard to understand, but again, it's representing a student's numbers. I think we probably should convert that to percentages so that you can see it a little bit differently. But again, most of our kids, it appears that they're going off to college here in the metro area. Of the kids who are planning on working, the question is where are they working? And you can see from the graph results there that 61% of our kids are planning on working here in Fargo. You'll see a slight decrease in North Dakota, not in Fargo. And again, I don't know if that's the downturn in the economy out west, if that made the difference. But again, I think more depth study would have to be observed and surveyed to determine that for sure. But again, not very many of our students are actually working. They're instead going off to college. But of the kids that are, most of them are staying here in the community. Okay, I'll turn it over to Dr. Birch.
Thank you, Mr. Dahlin. Good evening. I also would like to extend my thank you for the work that you do for the Fargo Public School students and staffs. It's not an easy job. We all get to be leaders in our own right, and certainly having the support of what you do and how you help us do our jobs each and every day is greatly appreciated. And that, I think, extends very well into the slide that I get to start with as to how counselors assist with the educational and career planning. Just to give you a little idea in terms of what's happening at each grade level, there is a state site known as Are You Ready? And at grade 9, they are looking at doing more of a career inventory in terms of what is of interest to them. That is followed up in the 9th grade English class with one of their first research papers that they do as a result of the opportunities in which they have to them. In addition, at the 9th grade level, there's also a career expo that takes place at the Fargo Dome, where all regional 9th grade students are able to attend a function in which many of our tech schools and two-year colleges set up a number of different stations in which you can run a crane, you can run a backhoe, you can learn a little bit about refrigeration, HVAC, all sorts of fun things in which are hands-on, police, fire, all kinds of neat things. So if you have a chance in December to join the activities at the Fargo Dome, I certainly welcome you to take part in that. And then also then the cluster inventory that's finished as well too at the 9th grade to start laying the foundation for life after high school. In grade 10, we continue with the Are You Ready? This is another interest inventory that's done by our career resource educators. They actually go into the English classrooms and begin to dig a little deeper into the interests and start to identify whether or not that students are starting to take the right course loads for the career paths in which students are expressing interest in. At grade 11, we look at doing what's called Do What You Are, and this is more of a personality career comparison in terms of the interests that you have. So therefore, if the personality doesn't match necessarily what the career is expecting you to do, this is a good time to perhaps reconsider your choices that you have based on who you are. So it's very good with that. Also then, our counselors meet at the 11th grade level with the juniors to be able to pick classes for the senior year. And at that point, there's also an opportunity to review for the graduation credits that are required to make sure that we have one additional check to make sure that we are in good shape to make that diploma a reality in that senior year. Then, of course, at the senior year, The counselors do a great job with the senior conferences where the students and the parents are invited into a meeting with the counselors to be able to basically review what has happened up to that point, make sure that everything is ready, set for the diploma, and also to assist then with individual information about certain colleges, scholarships, information that would allow them to be prepared for life after high school. The next slide here is I received quality instruction in, and as you can see, overwhelmingly, our students are indicating that they feel very positive about the opportunities that they are afforded in the core areas. And I think this is very reflective also with respect to the testing that happens with respect to ACT, with respect to AP, that our students are scoring extremely well in the city of Fargo when we compare ourselves to other Class A schools as well as the state in general. Once again, offers a high-quality total education program. Last year, Dr. Gross, I believe, put together a document that exactly showed what we do in the Fargo schools in comparison to many of our sister schools. One of the things that we do is we offer a very rich curriculum, and we offer an opportunity for kids with multiple interests, from the vocational to the music to the arts to the four-year college core areas. We have a great deal of opportunity for our students in Fargo schools. With the 3 high schools now, that perhaps has made some courses a little bit more challenging to be able to offer at each of our sites, but at the same time, we do have the ability to offer those courses to our students, so therefore, it's not as if they can't take them, it's just a matter of making sure that we can make that happen in their schedule. So our curriculum is top-notch within the state. The other thing that we're doing extremely well is working with identifying students at a younger age with our MTSS program, multiple tier support system, and we're starting to match more, I guess, of ability with curriculum for students to experience more success. And that is not an easy endeavor. That is a program that certainly requires talented teachers. It requires resources to be able to make that happen. But if indeed we want all of our students to succeed, we need to meet them where they are, more so than saying that this is where you need to be. And we're providing those steps in order to make that happen. So I thank you for your investment in making it possible for all kids to experience success, to get to the levels that we want them to get to. The last thing I'll say about this slide also is the AP program. We, as you heard Dr. Schott say at the opening, we provide almost 1/3 of the AP test takers in the state of North Dakota. And because of dual credit, that number probably could be more, but many of our students may opt to do the dual credit option, which is another fantastic opportunity, as Mr. Dolan shared with the slide before, where our kids are going to school. Many are staying in state because of that opportunity, and those credits will transfer. Because of the opportunities that my daughters have had in the Fargo schools, they basically have had their first year of school completed with the credits that they've been able to receive through either dual credit and or AP. So I can validate that that is an extreme benefit that we provide. I feel my teachers utilize technology for instruction, and the obvious answer here is that we provided PLDs for every student in grades 9 through 12. And if we only think in terms of technology as a computer, I think that's a little bit short-sighted. The word that I guess I like to use there in terms of technology is also engagement. We are working diligently at that word engagement. How do we hold the kids accountable and responsible for their own learning, with the teacher being more of the guide on the side than that rage on the stage? Technology with that computer certainly provides that opportunity to require more students to demonstrate their participation as well as their level of understanding and learning. But anywhere from graphing calculators to at South High School with the metals and manufacturing program, we have CNC machines which are manufacturing grade. Our students can come out and basically earn a certificate, for the most part, a little bit more training, and have such a head start when they go to a 2-year school. So in the vocational area, fantastic opportunities with health careers and facts, all sorts of opportunities in that respect. Same thing in music and arts, the number of ways in which we can connect students to follow a passion and/or a skill, not only in the classroom, but also in the extracurricular arena. That is extremely important. So those are areas in which we do a great job. The last thing I'll say about this is that there's a huge push for project-based learning, 21st century skills, of which this slide fits in very, very well with in terms of utilizing our instructors to ensure that when it comes to those 4 C's, the creativity, the communication, all those ways in which we want kids to be able to identify their own learning is embedded into how we can do that with the engagement/technology piece. And the last slide that I have is academic integrity is important to me, which once again is a result, I think, in terms of what our teachers are doing each and every day. And that's holding the kids accountable for their work, their understanding. Don't cheat yourself. Maximize your learning when you have the opportunity to do so, and develop those skills that we push so hard for. Take a rigorous curriculum. Do so with respect. Do so in a way that's certainly going to benefit you. And if there are gaps, recognize them, address them, and be able to seek out some of those areas perhaps that you're not as solid in, and that's why we're here. It's a school. It's called learning. And not everybody is given the same amount of talent or skill, but nonetheless, we all have the opportunity to improve. And that's what our message is each and every day. Let's get better, and let's get better at what we do and how we do it. Thank you.
Good evening. Obviously, seniority, I'm the batting last here, so kind of voluntold on that as it goes. But again, I would definitely echo Andy and Todd's remarks in terms of the work that you do. We all, I think, are partnerships for our community. So my slides are going to speak to the strategic initiative on culture and climate, which is critical in not only our businesses, but more importantly in our schools. And we all uniquely do things at North and South and Davies, but one of the things that we share with you each and every year is just this concept of how kids feel or perceive their teachers care about them. And you look at nearly 90% of the students feeling that as a fairly solid response. You get one response is sometimes you look at it, the 10%, what can we do to really speak to those 10%? And I think when we become aware of those situations, and if it's, maybe a grade on a test, or if there's one unique experience that a kid has, it would show up on something to this degree as well. But consistently, and I'll just reference maybe a little bit for our newer board members. If you look at the 14 survey, we had, you'll see we had really disagree in the green, we had the no opinion in the middle, and then the red was agree. And if you recall the dialogue a few years ago, we really said, how do we address that middle? How do we get the no opinion? And so then back in 2015 is when we moved to the 2 categories, which I think would speak a little bit to that. So just as you're looking at and if you're wondering about that would be what that would be the change. As I said earlier, we all do unique things in our own buildings, and this is a slide that I think will help you understand that we have nearly, again, 90% of our students feeling that there are adults in the building connecting to them. This could be anything from a custodian to the attendance lady, to our security folks, to a teacher. This isn't specifically to teachers in general. It could be a coach that they're referencing. And as we consistently preach to our staffs that really we want to build relationships. One of the things that we've said at Davies is that we build in relationships one student at a time. And I know Andy has a program, and Todd both are really trying to instill into all of our staffs that when we get to the point of kids feeling comfortable, and then we can start to get into that knowledge base a little bit. So this is an encouraging slide. We talked, if you remember on this one last year, we talked about the concept of safety. And so do they feel safe from outside influences and forces, or is it inside the building? And so again, we have a little uptick on this, but as it regards to students feeling safe at school, an encouraging slide. We would again break down into that 9% and try to take a look at some of those instances, and are there common trends where students aren't feeling safe, locker bays, bathrooms, and things of that nature. We obviously would continue to share that with staff, a larger presence in the locker bays, having teacher presences in the hallways, but really trying to address each and every day of kids feeling safe. This slide, I think as you look at this one, I guess I'm not sure how to look at this, but we've got a lot of kids working. And they're juggling a lot, folks. They really are. Each and every family has a unique perspective on this. You could sit and have conversations with parents where, quite honestly, bringing home money to the family is more important than. And so, really, as you look at this, you can see the increase. So these are the number of students. I know Andy mentioned it earlier. Maybe in future presentations we can talk about percentages. But so out of the original survey, you have 20 students that responded that they're working 31 plus hours. You do the math on that, and how do you find time for homework? And so even if you look at the part-time, which I think is 20 plus hours, so you've got 38 and 26 and 20. You got a lot of kids working outside. And so this is, I don't know how we would influence that or make changes to that, but this is something that in a sense is shared with staff and having conversations with kids, and it's just important information for us to gather as well. I think it puts it into perspective, it really does. One of the things that we wanted to include this year was just kind of an open response. And if you remember at the end of each survey, students kind of give their opportunities to say, hey, how can we improve things? And then we'll also share on our next slide affirmations and things that we're doing okay. I think it's important for you to know that is by far the number one, and I think you guys have sat around this table and understood that's indeed a response that students will obviously always share, and what that looks like, and to meet all the FDA guidelines, obviously. Sometimes it's not, healthy food's not always the best. My wife tells me that too. I'm like, what are we eating here? But it's good for you, so it is. Eat your vegetables, right? So obviously those next pieces, I think we all feel, fewer rules and more freedom is always an important response from students as well. Communication, with that, as we look at that, we just need to do a better job of maybe articulating our rationale on responses and doing a better job. We do a variety of things and trying to communicate, listening lunches, bringing students in and maybe sitting around the table and communicating with them, meeting with our student governments and student councils and opportunities to really try to articulate that. And so that's a constant thought of ours as well. Recognition of all activities, I think that's clearly something that, depending on where you come from, the theme is it always about sports and music, and how do we bring recognition to the art club and to the Spanish club? And so that's obviously something that we always want to try to do, pep assemblies and celebrations and things to that nature. And then the demands, the school policies. If you recall, the Eastern Dakota Conference with some of our sportsmanship guidelines, as schools, we've kind of tried to do our best to buckle down on sportsmanship and things that we will allow and won't allow, and that often is reflective in responses similar to this. And then obviously the open response to the affirmations and what they appreciate. You look at the teachers and the staff and administration are careful and helpful. That's obviously our mission. The opportunities, I think this is affirming to you as a board. You have 18-year-olds and 17-year-olds affirming that they have been given multiple opportunities to be successful. There's your technology response as well, and then the safe environment that they had to the open response as well too. So that concludes kind of my slides, and we would kind of open the floor for questions, and then I know Andy would love to answer any of the questions that you direct towards us.
This is a wonderful presentation, and I know we always look forward to this one every year. I'll open it up if anyone has any questions or comments. Jim?
I'm just curious, because I think, well, first of all, I think Andy was making a reference to me at the beginning of this of having been here for a while, but this number of about 3/4 of our students indicating they're going to go on for a 4-year or greater degree hasn't really changed much, I don't think, in my tenure on the board. Do we actually know what percentage actually start that path? I mean, they're telling us they're planning to go to college. Do we know how many actually enrolled as freshmen?
Not really. I think the difficulty is, again, getting that information back from universities or even from students. We don't do any post-exit surveys in terms of a year out and seeing whether or not they attended. Sure, it'd be good information, tell us a lot of stuff. And I think for some, college is going to be difficult, even if they project that they're going to go off to one of our local colleges. It's not that easy. And so some are delaying. I talked to kids. We had a death of a student, and we went to the funeral last night. And so I saw some of the kids that just graduated last year. And I'm not sure how they responded to the survey, but some are working. Some were going to M-State and to vocational schools, the ones I talked to. And again, you know, I think it's just a challenge for us to try to gather that data. I think you bring up a good point about whether they really do or not.
Anyone else? I had a couple questions. You had mentioned that Dr. Gross came up with an academic comparison to what we're doing compared to the other schools in the state. Did this get folded into our standard of effort, or is that a separate thing? Okay, that is the same thing, okay. Yep. And my other question was the multi-tiered, the MTSS. What grade does that start? Remind me.
Well, first of all, the multi-tiered support system starts in elementary.
So that's all the way
Yeah,
through?
so
That's
it's
just
K
a
through
whole
12, yeah.
approach? It's not just a high school
And
thing?
in our Power School efforts there, we're tracking information from one level to the next level. And so we're getting the information of what's happened with students at the elementary all the way up to their middle school. We meet periodically with our teams and, again, address the needs of students.
Thank you. Sure?
If you remember, in the last 2 years, that's been part of the operational plan too, to bring the MTSS program succinctly from K through 12, you know, and so they've worked really hard to connect those transitions too, and to make sure that if there are things going on in the elementary, it follows to the middle school and then to the high school. And so I think we're getting very close to having that connection and those seamless lines. So that's a big piece that we've been doing. So when you hear all of our teachers or administrators talking about MTSS, that now has become the vehicle to, you know, look at students and to see how they're doing. If they're not doing well, then what are we going to do about that, and how do we get that taken care of with interventions? So pretty excited about the fact that high school people are talking about MTSS.
That's the biggest smile you ever get, is when we talk about that stuff. I really appreciate the emphasis the last few years on the school culture and how you're measuring it, you know, the number of adults that know me well. And I mean, for us to look at things like that and to see that kind of response is really inspiring. So, anyone else have anything that came to mind or anything you'd like to ask? Rebecca?
Did you say how many students filled out the survey comparison to how many graduates we had?
I believe that there was over 600 students. How many? 674. So that's a big percentage. And again, it didn't include the students at Woodrow. I think you'll hear that at another board meeting. But again, probably have about 800 students, I would imagine. Held a good representative sample.
I just have one more question. So when you share this information with your staff, what's that like? I mean, are they surprised? Is this information they feel like they can act on? Do they enjoy hearing this kind of direct
Troy-
feedback?
Troy would like to speak because he doesn't get this opportunity very often, so.
Let's move aside, that's good.
I'll share how I, see what I put up with?
What I did is I used this information in our August back-to-school faculty meeting. I took a couple of the slides and we grouped our teachers in 12 different groups, multidiscipline, so we had a PE, FACS, you name it. And then we just threw some posing questions out to them, threw the data out there and said, you know, what are some talking points that you see? Are we trending? And so that's how we utilized that as well. And then when we received this information back in the spring, I shared it with our department chairs and probably had a little bit more of an intimate conversation on what are some action items that we can look at over the summer to maybe implement for changes. Are there things that we can look at to make drastic changes? Is there anything glaring at us? So staff is involved in the results and hopefully trying to stir up some conversation about that too. So that's how it was done. I don't know how you guys.
To piggyback in terms of what Mr. Cody said, is we also share the results of the survey in the August back-to-school faculty meeting, because many of the data points are very positive, in which they also need to be affirmed of the efforts that they're making. Then it also gives us an opportunity to identify some of those areas in which we can use as goal and growth areas as well too. So to show exactly what we are doing well and where perhaps some of the places may be. One of those things that we do indicate to our staffs is some of the misbehaviors, where are they taking place? And if they are in the commons or the hallways or the bathrooms, then it reinforces the efforts that we're making to make sure that we have adult presences in those areas to be able to help reduce the reports of those sort of behaviors that are taking place.
Great, thank you. Dr. Gross, did you have something you were going to add?
Yeah, I very much appreciate the time and effort that was put into this report. I think this gave you the opportunity not only to hear the data, but to hear how caring, professional, and dedicated our principals are. It's a pleasure to work with all of them. It's also a pleasure to work with the next few principals who are going to be in the next report, so I don't want to single just them out. But I do want you to know that that sense of caring and professionalism is across our entire system, K through 12. So thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you all, appreciate it. So Dr. Gross, go ahead with the next presentation.
Terrific. As we continue talking about wonderful things that happen in our community, this is going to go back over there still. Excuse me. What we'd like to do is just continue to share some of the good news or some of the things that are happening across our system, and that would be to share what happens in our summer programming. The number of students that come to us over the summer is quite impressive. The array of opportunities that we have for our students, not only in enrichment, but also to help them dig a little bit deeper and to extend their learning opportunities is immense. And tonight we have a team here. I'm going to introduce Becky Folden and David Berkman, two of our principals across the system, and then they have also brought others with them to share other information. So I will turn it over to the team.
Told to move the mic. I must not be as tall as some of the others. First of all, thank you, and I get to echo just exactly what they said as well. As I take my educator hat off and I put on my parent hat, I'm a parent of a junior. He attends at Davies and also gets to attend every day at South High through the ROTC program, and the work that you do makes me very proud to be a parent of a student in our school system. So I consider him very lucky to attend the Fargo schools. So thank you for that. I am Rebecca Folden. I am the principal at Claire Barton Hawthorne Elementary, and I happen to run 2 elementary programs for summer school. So you should have a packet that lists some of our summer school programs, and I'll kind of go in order of the packet. So on page 2, the first program that I run in the Fargo schools in the summer is the Transition Summer School Program. This is a program for all of our elementary students that have finished kindergarten, K through 5, that need just a little bit of a push in the area of reading or math. So this is a teacher-referred program. At conferences in February, teachers will talk with parents about the need for maybe just an additional push in the area of reading or math. As you can see on this form, there's a couple options. We have, they can do it's 8 to 10 for 3 weeks in July. 8 to 10, they could do literacy, and then from 10 to 12, they could do math. We do have a handful of kids that may go 4 hours a day just for literacy or just for math, but the vast majority may usually come for both math and reading. There are a variety of ways that they can qualify based on our district assessments, based on the progress report. So on page 2 lists a variety of those areas and how they do qualify for this program. On page 3 are the numbers that were registered in May, and then those that actually attended in July. This year, the program ran July 11th through the 29th, again from 8 to noon. It's Monday through Friday. The locations, most of the elementary schools participated if they were not able to. For example, McKinley was closed due to construction. Those students are able to go to any other school in the district. So, and again, at our split campuses, my building, for example, our classes were held at Clara Barton, so our kids go to all one campus over the summer. We had kids come from all over. To qualify for this program, they have to have a Fargo address, or one parent does in the summer. So we have kiddos that might attend school in Arizona and come and live with their father during, or their mom during the summer, and with that Fargo address, they can qualify. So they'll still come to us even though they may attend in Arizona during the school year. We have students who come from Nativity, Holy Spirit, Grace Lutheran, all over. Even some of the West Fargo schools did attend in our building. So again, you can see the locations that we had this summer, the students that registered and those that actually attended. Typically, we drop a little over 100 each year. We registered 736 kids by the last day of school. 615 actually attended. This is a free program, so as things pop up in the summer and activities start, we do see a little bit of a decline in there. So, but 615 did attend throughout the summer at those buildings. Then the next program that I run is actually in the month of June. It's the enrichment program. So on page 4, these are kind of those fun classes that teachers have a passion for and want to share that in the summer. We partner up with high school teachers, with middle school teachers. It's not just our elementary teachers that come in and work with our kids. This year we were able to offer 26 different sessions for our students. You can see, starting with number 1 there, the computer enrichment, all the way through 13. We had several different courses that we offered, from French to German to rock and roll myth-busting engineering and upcycled sculpturing courses and nifty novels and German, and we just had a whole bunch of fun things that happened this summer. This year we had all of our classes attending out at Kennedy Elementary. The last, I would say the last 2-3 years we've been up at Washington. So we decided this year we would try the other end of the city of Fargo to see if that made a difference, and so we had all of our classes this summer at Kennedy. Classes are 2 hours in length, so they can either attend the 8 to 10 session or the 10 to 12, and we usually group them, so 2nd and 3rd graders are in one session, 4th and 5th graders are in a second. I wrote a $600 grant through the foundation, which was approved, so we were able to help some kids that couldn't afford to take these courses. We were able to offer scholarships, and we used all of our scholarships this summer as well. Again, we had kiddos from all over, Moorhead, Fargo, West Fargo. Our Arizona kiddo likes our program so well, he comes to all of them. So we have a variety of programs and kiddos from all over. And we do have many homeschool kiddos that attend these programs as well. So we had 232 register and 231 attended, so we had very nice numbers there. The courses are $75 a piece, so that is what we charge for the 3-week session. So those are the 2 programs that I offer in the elementary. Any questions that I can answer?
Jennifer?
Okay, I have 2 questions.
Sure.
First, how do you decide which enrichment courses to offer in the summer?
What I do, it starts in December. It takes a little planning, but in December I send out to all staff, middle, elementary, and high school staff, a proposal where they can submit any idea that they have that they want to teach, and based off those proposals, then we determine if it's a new course that we think would be a good fit. If it's a course that we've done for a while and the registrations are starting to decline a little bit, that maybe we want to try something new. So that happens in December, and as those course proposals go through, we look at them and go from there.
Do we ever survey parents, especially I'm curious about the languages, how we decide that as well?
We have not. It is something that we definitely could easily do just to get a little feedback about the courses that we're offering or, yep.
And my last question, if I may. How did the numbers for registration compare to last year?
Yep, if you look on page
Oh, did I miss that
13,
one?
it is on there. So we had 249 and attend last year, so 231 this year, so very, very close. 626 for transitions and 615 this year. One of the things that I will note with Transitions Elementary School, that is the program for math and reading. We have implemented over the last few years an attendance policy, which has, I think, made some of those numbers look a little bit less, but those kids are coming every day. Prior to this, there was not a policy. We might have a kiddo come one day of the 15, and then they'd be counted there, where now they have to attend 13 of the 15. So a few less numbers, but they're coming most of the days, which is what we're wanting.
Anyone else? Jim?
Thank you for investing in your summer.
Absolutely.
You mentioned that all of the scholarship grant money that you found was used. Did we have any people that had applied for a scholarship we were not able to accommodate?
I did not. I used all of them that did come my way. And really, it just becomes word of mouth. The principals reach out to families that they might know. Families do a great job of calling me. Lucky enough that I had exactly what I needed over the last few years, and I've kind of based what I'm asking for in the grant off what we've used each year. I think if it was something that, if we had more, I think that there would even be more. I think, principals kind of try and get a few that they know might, but if they knew that there was even more funds, that we would have probably more that would attend. And it is a little bit difficult just because it is at one school. The transportation piece does add a little bit of a difficulty in there.
Anyone else? Okay, well, thank you so much. This is good to see so many kids taking part over the summer and catching up.
Turn it to David, who does the middle and the high school.
Great.
Wake up. My name is David Berkman. I am principal at Woodrow Wilson High School and also do a lot with alternative education for Fargo Public Schools, which is how summer school comes into my portfolio. Thank you, first of all. I want to say thanks for the summer picnic. I know you, compliments to the chef who was doing the cooking for the summer program out at Oak Grove. Much appreciated, and just know that back in the building that appreciation is shared by the other summer staff within the buildings. So an appreciated gesture. When you think of summer school at the high school level, if I said, think back to high school days, and if you told somebody, hey, I'm doing summer school, was that like, yay, I can't wait? Or was it like, I don't know what to think about that? Or if somebody were to say summer school, you'd be like, ooh, I don't think that's necessarily a good thing. When I talk with friends or colleagues in the state or even out of state that summer school is in my portfolio, they're like, oh. The connotation that comes to mind is, well, you didn't get it done in 9 months, so let's try another 6 to 8 weeks with it and see if we can get it done during that time. That really couldn't be further from the truth than what middle school and high school summer school is all about. It really boils down to a world-class education. You heard Dr. Birch especially talk a lot about opportunities that are found in Fargo Public Schools. I've had the opportunity to work in some larger districts within the Midwest, and to say that we really have something special here that could rightfully be called a world-class education is really very accurate. Summer school offers some access to depth of courses. When we say fine arts in Fargo Public Schools, we're talking about a music program with great depth, tremendous depth, a drama program within fine arts with tremendous depth, and we talk about visual arts opportunities with tremendous depth. If we're looking at foreign languages, the various amounts of languages offered, the levels offered within those languages. Career Tech Ed, if you had an interest in any of these areas, within Fargo Public Schools, you could put together really a 4-year plan that would have a ton of opportunity. Business, aviation, automotive mechanics, FACS, metals and manufacturing, construction, health sciences, computer sciences. If we look at the core subjects, we look at AP coursework, we're looking at the dual credit courses, service learning opportunities, leadership, volunteering, ROTC, ROTC. It's a very impressive list of opportunities. Why talk about that with summer school? That is the door for many students to open up the opportunities that I'm mentioning. Within summer school, a student might be taking a Phi-Ed class to free up scheduled time for a very high interest area as well as core classes. Maybe it's not Phi-Ed, maybe they're gonna take care of an English or a social studies class. So summer school, night school, and I would say online learning in that as well, offers a very, very high depth of access to the courses offered in Fargo Public Schools. So echoing what Dr. Birch, Troy Cody, and Andy were saying, tremendous opportunity for students within Fargo Public Schools. Kathy Anderson, Trollwood Director, she's not able to be here tonight and she's gonna share later, just mentioning that she's looking forward to adding that piece to this conversation as well. I'm actually going to step back from the data part. If you scan through pages 7 to 12, it would talk about which courses are offered as part of the middle school and high school program. And it's really quite evenly split between students who are retaking something because they didn't pass it within the school year. By the way, how that typically happens is a student has a life crisis, they start to miss a bit of school, and as the life does a little bit of spiraling downward, one class goes, and the team at the school tries to hold on to all classes. One goes, and then sometimes a second class goes. Well, that student who might be interested in, say, automotive, now if we don't offer summer school, the next year instead of taking automotive, they're gonna retake the class that they were not successful in. With summer school or night school, the student's able to retake that class and still have access to that very, very high interest level. So pages 7 to 12 talks about programming, and I'm gonna turn it over to Mr. Keel, who's assistant principal of summer school, and he's gonna direct your attention to page 13 as we look at some of the data throughout recent years of summer school. And this is all programming, not just the middle school and high school level. So, Mr. Keel?
Thanks for the introduction, David. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate. I'm also a counselor in the school year, and I really do appreciate all of the opportunities that our students are afforded. In the last 2 days, I've registered students for online courses, night classes, and other alternatives that in most school districts and other districts I've worked in weren't options. So I really do appreciate that. If I could have you direct your attention to page 13, there were a few numbers I wanted to highlight, and then I'll open it up for questioning as well. If you look about halfway down the page, you'll notice the music, the middle school band and orchestra, the numbers have jumped significantly the last 2 years, and the reason for that is that orchestra was added 2 years ago, and so those additional numbers are orchestra students, very successful program. I expect those numbers to continue to increase, so I'm thrilled that we're able to do that. The occupational education program, if you look a little bit higher up, has 34, 33 students in it. That's a special services program. It's a career to work program. And so those students are getting jobs in the community, they're getting supervision in the community, building those work skills. And so hopefully when they approach graduation, they'll have work skills and can enter our community as productive members. So we're excited about that. The big number at the top, the academic number, if you look at the trend over the last 3 years, you'll see that it is declining. I don't necessarily look at that as a bad thing because From my perspective as a counselor, I see fewer students failing classes because we're getting them in the appropriate classes through the MTSS process, through the assessments that we're doing on students. So I think that's a positive. I also think that we have increased opportunity for students, enrolling students in online classes that they can do during the school day, enrolling students in night classes that they can do in the evenings so that they can have the time in the summer to do the work that a lot of them want to do or other activities in the summer. So I don't necessarily look at that declining enrollment in the academic part as a negative. I think it's a combination of opportunities and success. Anyone have questions about any of the other numbers?
Brandy?
You said night school. What's offered? I've never heard the night school.
Okay, night school is a program that's offered for any high school student. They can take classes in social studies areas, so world history, U.S. history, economics, and government. There are also English classes available. The focus on those, for the most part, is remedial, so students who weren't successful the first time are given an opportunity to retake. I also do have some students, there are some that are doing it for acceleration, so students who want to graduate early or are looking for other opportunities.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Well, it was great to see orchestra added. I had that starred before you even explained it, so.
Yep,
It's just,
that's why.
it's wonderful to see all the additional things being added, that we're really expanding those options for our students. So thank you for your good
Yep.
work.
And I'm going to
Oh,
invite
did you-
Jennifer up to talk. You had some things you wanted to add about the ELL programming?
Oh, I'm Jennifer Free. I'm coordinator of the Adult Learning Center in the Even Start Family Literacy Program. And I want to echo the comments of the thankfulness that goes on for the work that you do. I get to go to Bismarck tomorrow for some statewide adult ed meetings, and I truly go to those and have a sense of thankfulness as I sit around the table and hear what's happening in other ALCs across our state, and thankful for the support that you give the programs that I love so much. So I am the last little chart on the back, page 18, and that just goes over our numbers of students that we've had. We had a very busy year this last year. Summer school was the same as our school year. We run throughout 12 months. We don't have summer school fully throughout the summer. We have a couple of weeks off here or there, but we are open 12 months out of the year at different times. And so we have GED program that runs both at Agassiz and at the Cass County Jail. We're there a couple of days a week. Our adult ELL classes run morning, afternoon, and evening throughout the week at Agassiz. We have a driver's literacy class that works to help individuals study for their permit, not behind the wheel, just permit at this point in time. And citizenship, there are 2 citizenship class options. The first one is open to anybody enrolled in the Adult Learning Center and in the community. The other one down below is an elder citizenship, and this class is started and supported by funds through Lutheran Social Services and their Elder Refugee Program. They come to class 2 days a week at Agassiz, followed by lunch that's done in collaboration with Valley Senior Services, and then they go down into the cafeteria, the commons area downstairs for some elder activities, and similar to what you would see in a senior service center they have there that is culturally specific to the needs of an elder refugee. We run a CNA program at Bethany Retirement Living just down the street from us, and we offer the pre-CNA course for our ELL adults to help them build the vocabulary needed before going into that intense 3-week training-specific program. And then the next 2 classes kind of combined in that career readiness section are our job skills class. That's offered through a WIA incentive grant that we got last year, working with Job Service and Voc Rehab. And then the computer literacy is done through Workforce Safety and Insurance. The classes are open primarily for those students who come to our GD classes, but then we're able to open up spots as those classes or those spaces aren't filled to our ELL and other GD students. Our Even Start kids, we had 46 kids attend summer at some point. 12 of those would be school-age kids, and so we work with the K-12 ELL program to provide continual service. We have Even Start in June and July, and so our kindergartners, or our pre-Ks going into kindergarten that year, will attend the June session and then come back to us in July if they're not doing the learning by doing section. Or if there are some other kids that maybe don't meet the requirement to go to the K-12 version, but could use some additional supports and their families are already coming to Even Start, we'll include them into our space. So that's what happens in my section in the summer. Any questions?
Any questions? Yes, David.
Thank you, Jennifer. I was asked something today that I wanted to, it's great that you're here and it's appropriate. A colleague of mine was interviewing a young man from Iraq, and he just recently come here and he had not graduated. And he expressed an interest in attending a traditional high school. He's 19, and he was told he could not, that his only alternative was a GED program. Is that correct? I didn't know what to tell him, so I didn't tell him anything.
There are a lot of pieces that go into deciding, where a kid can go. If it was a Fargo student, they would connect with Vince Williams' side and meet with the social workers, and that determination would come from the school, so I wouldn't know the specifics.
Dr. Gross?
We would have those conversations. They certainly would meet with the school counselor and the administration. Students can attend until they reach 21 in the state of North Dakota, so that would be an option. We would have conversations, though, about where they're at on that educational career, and would it be possible within the time period still remaining until they turn 21? And would that be the best option? Would a better option be potentially working in a GED program? So it's really a conversation that we have with the student and with the family.
Anyone else? Jim?
I'm just curious because the numbers jump so much. In particular, the ELL adult from 120 to 306. Any reference point as to why this increase?
It's not, we have a lot of new arrivals, but no more necessarily than any other year in most recent history. We have a lot of secondary migrants who are coming from other states. They've been resettled somewhere else in the United States and are moving here. Our economy is great, that word is out, and so they're coming if they have family or friends here who have said, oh, there's great job opportunities. A lot of our adult ELL students work at Sanford, and they're opening a new hospital, and so that word of mouth has spread as well to there. So a lot of secondary. A lot of our students are staying for a significant amount of time. Employers are recognizing the benefit to having them in English classes, and so they're working really hard with the students, our students that are their employees, to work around their schedules and provide different opportunities for parents to also come to school. Some places have even recommended or paid them some, or given them a wage to come to class for an hour or two a week in the evening, so.
Well, it's a good trend. I was just curious.
Anyone else? Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. I think what we'll do, if we're done with those presentations, we'll take a break and then we'll come back for Dr. Gross's. Do you have something to say to kind of wrap this up?
If I may, I think I would be remiss to say that the data that you heard was not impressive, because it certainly is impressive. But I want to say, wow, those are the people that I get to work with on a day-to-day basis. And I am very, very lucky that I get to do that. So thank you very much for your time, your effort, and your dedication to the students, the parents, and our entire community. It's greatly appreciated. So thank you very much.
Well, and I have to say, walking through that building is just one of the most inspiring things you can do. And David and I spent half a day there not too long ago, and it's just so great. The work you're doing is kind of invisible to much of the community, but it's pretty miraculous. So thank you so much. Appreciate your being here tonight. So we'll take a break, and we'll be back in 5. We'll give Dr. Schatz something else to talk about other than how bad sugar is for us. Oh, wait, first, it's Dr. Gross with the enrollment update.
Each year at this time, we give you an update of where we're at with our enrollment across our system, now that our school year has begun and we're a few weeks in. This report is something that is updated every 15 minutes. So actually this morning, the numbers were not the same as they are now. I mean, we are a mobile district, and each year when we share with you our mobility report, you see that we have 1,000 students over the course of the year come to us and 1,000 students who will leave us. Here are the numbers as of today. You'll see our total enrollment is 11,220. That's up in the upper left-hand corner. And then the next row show you how that is broken down: elementary, middle school, and high school. On the elementary portion of that, you can see the number of sections of each of the grade levels, and then the district student-to-teacher ratio at the elementary. And as you look at that information, you can see we are well within the guidelines that are part of the long-range facility plan as we look at class size at the elementary level. We do not have class sizes at the middle school and the high school because that is not calculated the same way. A student is in multiple classes at the high school and multiple classes at the middle school, but we certainly wanted to provide that information at the elementary. We then break that down by building, and as you look across the system, you can see as you scan that ratio at all of our buildings. I think Dr. Agri did a wonderful job as one of her tasks is to work with the building principals on anticipating the number of students, finding the right number of sections at each of those grade levels, and you can see across the system we are fairly consistent from building to building. There are some instances where the numbers vary slightly, but that's sometimes made up by the makeup of the school, the total number of students in a particular grade level, or it's made up just because as our mobile society, additional students entered or left as we were making our anticipation. And then finally, you can see the data that's broken down at the middle school level. So across our system, I think we are off to a wonderful start. You can see again, if I scan to the top of the page, our number as of this evening is 11,220. And that's where we're at.
Great, thank you. Jennifer?
Thanks for that information, Bob. I'm just curious, is there a link on our website to this information specific to each school? You know, we had a summary from RSVP and the numbers, but where does it get updated?
There is on our public site a monthly report that looks at the numbers. It's not something that is generated every 15 minutes like this one is, but certainly it is available as we look at class size, number of students, and total enrollment.
Anyone else have any questions for Dr. Gross? Great, thank you very much for that opening snapshot. Dr. Schott.
Thank you. Tonight I bring to you a little bit about our administrative policy updates and review that we did over the summer. According to our guidance that we get from the EL, if there's any significant change to a policy and or new policies that we're bringing to you, it's my duty to bring those to you and share them with you. And so there were 4 policies that tonight we brought to your attention. 2 of the policies are new policies that we felt we needed to add to the cadre of overall policies, and the other 2 were basically complete just rewrites as we looked at the materials that were in the original policy to what's happening in today's world, and so it's really modernizing those 2 policies. So overall, we looked at 24 different policies this summer, and as you know, the goal that we've had over the last 3 years is get to a series review of policies. You know, when we first started it, it was just getting policies in better shape and getting consistency in the policies. There were several policies we needed to address right away, so we did that in the past years. We still have kind of worked our way through most of that, but there were some policies like these we bring to you tonight are not part of the 3000 series. our 2000 series, which we looked at this year. So next year, it's my hope that we'll be finally to that point where when we do policy review, it's within the series, so that it's not this potpourri of all these things that we have to address because the policies were outdated or they, hadn't been reviewed. So that'll really give us guidance then moving forward with this annual review of policies. In most cases, in most policy reviews, it's a couple of word changes, it's maybe date changes, maybe it's something that happened at the legislature, so there's a new reference to a new law. And so those kinds of things we just do and just move on. And so of all those other policies that we looked at, almost all of that kind of work is what we did. And so there's no significant change to the policy. And so I'm not going to burden you with all those little minutia changes. We still have 3 policies that are in progress that we're working on. And let me see here. I had it somewhere over here. Those 3 policies are AP 4350, placement of special education students, AP 6220, student attendance, and AP 6250, student restraint. Those are an ongoing review right now, and so I will report later to you if we feel that they change in any significant way. So back to tonight, the 4 policies that we have. AP 5040, it's an ADA policy. We did not have this on the books. We felt that we needed to, and this just really addresses all of the things that go on with being in compliance with ADA, American Disabilities Act. And so, as you see, we've put that policy together, and I don't know if there's any questions on that, but it's pretty straightforward. And this came out of Brittany's work in her department. If you look at, and if there are any questions, just let us know. AP 6052, dispute resolution policy. This is another new policy. And what this is reflecting what is the process if there is a complaint or there is some kind of dispute. Who do I go to? Who do I file the complaint with? And what is the process? And this is really following the federal guidelines for these programs. And so we did not have one on the books for that. And so we are adding that, and that is appropriate to do. And so again, this one is very straightforward and provides good guidance to anybody who might have a concern.
I have a quick question. So we have a general dispute resolution policy, and this one is specific to title programs?
This here, as you see, is all the title programs, federal programs that we work with. And so as you look, Title I, Title II, 3, Title IX, and then Section 504. And so this is, again, just clearly identifying that. Bob might have a couple extra comments there.
One of the requirements of receiving federal dollars is to specifically have a policy or a vehicle for parents to have that information. Now, it could have been on the website, and we have done that in the past. We just wanted to make it as convenient as possible. If our community or our parents or even our students had a question about who they should go to if they had something they disagreed with. So it's meeting federal requirements.
In respect to title stuff, not just general. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
If you remember last year, we did all those adjustments to patron complaints and all the different policies. And so I think what we have now is we have all of that pretty well cleaned up. And it's very succinct, very informational, and easy to get to. If you go to policy, I believe it's 7010, that gets you to kickoff. If you have a complaint that you want to file, then it'll lead you to all the other policies. But the complaint form is the same, so that there isn't all this confusion about what do I submit and how do I do that. And so I think this is great that we're getting to this point. The next 2 fell in Bob's arena in teaching and learning, curriculum development. They went through and looked at what was on the books for a curriculum development policy and just felt that with the reorganization of the teaching and learning department, with all the different things that we're doing now and how we address the curriculum development, to just rewrite it and to make it current rather than going through and trying to line it out and all these things. So this is the work of Bob's department. And Bob, do you have any comments you want to make on that?
I think what you'll see as you read through this, this is much in line with some of the information that we received from our advanced ed visit, as they talk about how are we going to meet and exceed those standards of a quality system. That it was truly the foundation of our conversation as we rewrote this policy, and how then we develop our curriculum across the system. So another way of aligning the arrows that is so important to us in our district.
And then the fourth policy, use of copyrighted materials. The last time this was reviewed was in 2003. And this is an issue of making sure you stay current with current laws and codes with regard to copyrighted materials. And so this was Amy Soma and her department working along with Bob again and Jodell. And when Amy looked at what we had on the books, came back to him and said, let's just rewrite this thing because it needed a lot of updating. And so what you find is a much more succinct, compressed policy, if you will, than what we had before. Again, giving guidelines to our staff and to others with regard to appropriateness in using materials or duplicating materials and what you can do and can't do and those types of things. And so again, this reflects the work of that, and now that is updated on the books. So these four policies represent significant work done to them to make sure that we're either in accordance to law or up to date with what's currently the practice going on. And so if there are any other questions, we'd be more than happy to answer them.
Thanks, that's a lot of work. Anybody have any questions? This is not an action item, this is just for our information, but, well, thank you, and to Dr. Gross and Brittany and everyone who had a hand in all of these, appreciate it. And you had one other thing you were going to add?
And I would also say, too, the gatekeeper of all of our AP policies is Anne Marie. And so she is the collector of all of this. And then formatting, double checking, working with the School Boards Association attorney if we need reference to make sure that we're following guidelines that we should. And then Anne Marie gets it into this final format. So before it comes to anybody in the end or goes on the books, it goes through Anne Marie. So thank you for your work on that too. It's excellent. I bring to you tonight just something that a handout that came to us late, so I wanted to make sure you had it. But and it's this handout here. We just handed it out during the break. The Career and Technical Education Town Hall Meeting and Program Tours. You may wonder, well, what is that? Well, that's going to be held over in West Fargo and in the Fargo schools here. This was organized by a state organization, not by local school districts. And Dr. Flowers and I were informed of it in the middle of last week, and this is to happen this coming Monday. And so it was like, we had no idea. And really what it is to reach out to legislators with regard to the statewide CTE programs and trying to inform them of what they do and how they do it and those types of things. So this is a little bit cumbersome for us. So West Fargo has, and this is how this worked, is Denise Jonas then, who oversees all of our CTE programs, found out about this late, and so has worked with the schools in the consortium. But here's the conflict, is that the annual North Dakota Study Group that gets together, which is the 16 largest schools and superintendents, meet on Monday in Devil's Lake. So Dr. Flowers and I can't be there. Usually we take all of our cabinet to that on this particular meeting. And so the cupboard is bare, to say the least. And so a bit frustrated about this. And then I know that you like to be informed about legislative events and things. Today, so far they've only had 3 people respond saying they're even going to show up. So it's been organized by a state organization, bringing it to our local area without a lot of coordination, and so it will occur. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to inform you and let you know that this is happening. You can see the agenda on the backside, and it ends up with some tours out in the schools at Cheyenne and at South High. Superintendent Corey Steiner from Northern Cass will be able to be there. David made a decision to have Alan Burgad, their assistant soup, stay back from that meeting in Devils Lake, so he'll be there on behalf of West Fargo schools. Denise, I talked to her. She will be representing our school district on our behalf, and she will do a fabulous job. She's a great representative for us, and so I'm not worried about that at all. So anyways, this is the schedule. I wanted to make you aware of it, and you know, it says town hall meeting. They don't really say, well, open to anybody and everybody wants to come. It's more focused towards legislators. So it's very cumbersome. You decide what you want to do, and I've now informed you of it. And but you all know that I don't like operating this way, and So we will let folks that were organizing this know that if they're going to come to Fargo and West Fargo in the metro, we need to be on board so that we can be here and be part of, and that this isn't the way to do business. So hopefully they'll have a great experience, and if legislators show up, they'll learn a lot about CTE programs. So on a positive note, it's all great. It's all good stuff. It's just that it's been done a little bit interestingly, and so you now have the information, and that's all I have.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And hope you have a good meeting up in Devil's Lake while this is going on. Yeah. Okay, we are at our consent agenda. I would entertain a motion to approve the items.
So moved?
Second. There's a motion and a second to approve the items on the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. Motion approved. Brings us to our business tonight. And Dr. Schatz, our operational plan, final look at it.
This is the final version of our operational plan. There were no changes made to the original plan that you received. And so all we are doing tonight is asking you to approve this plan moving forward, and then that'll set forth the work for us to implement strategic initiatives through this operational plan for the school year.
Jim.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the 2016-17 operational plan as provided in memo number 28.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second to approve the 2016-17 operational plan. Any discussion, questions or comments? Seeing none, Anne Marie, if you would call the roll, please.
Goldenberg.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Knutson.
Yes.
Paulson. Yes. Rodenbiker.
Yes.
Ulrich.
Yes.
Ani.
Yes.
Benson.
Yes.
Boyd.
Yes, and thank you for all the work that went into this, and have a fabulous year doing all that stuff. So now I'd like to turn it over to Jennifer Benson, who is our liaison to the Health Insurance Committee, and
I really get to turn it over to John.
there you
so-
go.
So thanks for being here.
All right, some people get their leadership position by knowledge. Some get their leadership position just because they've been here forever. This started for me in like 1990 as a teacher negotiator, when our plan used to pay for first dollar of hospitalization. And that was driving our budget into the red. So we needed to make change. So after some very contentious negotiation meetings, we decided that we should form a committee. And I've been on it ever since. I'm the historian, I guess. And basically what it was is let's get every group together. Instead of having this discussion with board and teachers, and then telling the secretarial or telling custodial or telling nutrition services, this is what we agreed with the teachers, so this is what you're going to get. Let's get all these groups together and let's talk about it at the same table. And let's try to build consensus on what's best for everybody involved. And get it out of negotiations. Because the negotiations really, it got quite ugly. And I think it's been successful. We have changed the structure a little bit. We have changed a few different dynamics of how we vote and what is a consensus and that type of thing. But really what it's been about is great discussion, great, I think, education in what drives healthcare and what changes, what political changes affect us and what we have control of and what we don't have control of. And we've looked at the program. We used to do a lot of changes in what actually we're involved in our benefits. And we're gonna pay for this type of procedure or that type of procedure, or this can be preventative and this isn't, and we're gonna set a limit here and a limit there. That, really with the Affordable Care Act, a lot of that has been taken off the table because there's a lot more things now that you must cover, and this is the way you're gonna cover it. So really what it's come down to the last few years is how do we divvy up the cost of this to make it still that great benefit that we want to have so that we can get the best candidates, the best people we possibly can as employees of Fargo Public School, yet also make it affordable for our public, make it affordable for our district. And it's tough decisions. It really is difficult. Now, if you'd also remember, last time I talked to you, we made a very significant change. We changed a couple things. First of all, we changed our year to January 1 to December 31 instead of September 1 to August 30. And the difficulty there was many times people's deductibles would be affected by a change in September. So that was a big change. And part of our discussion this year has been, we didn't start this year until January 1, and the budget needs to get to you, so we only had about 6 months really of data that we could take a look at and make projections instead of the typical 9. So that made it a little bit difficult. And the other thing we did is we went to a high deductible, more of a consumer-driven health savings account option. So now we have dual plans that our employees can choose from. We had approximately 10% of our people switch to that high deductible plan. And as we looked at this plan and the discussion that we had, in order to try to stay into our budget constraints and take a look at this, what we decided we would do is we would make some changes more so to the people that are on a traditional plan. And we said, okay, we're going to increase that employee percentage by 2.5% in each of those categories. So I think it went to 20, 25, and 30%. If you remember, for many years we had a 85-15 split no matter what the program was. Okay, and the reason we did that is that we really felt we want to push more people to look at the high deductible consumer-driven health savings account. So there is an option. There will be some educational meetings that we will set up to help educate people. We've got 10% of us, my wife and I are part of that 10%, that can also be we've been the kind of the crash dummies, or we're the people that have trying this out, and if people have questions, hopefully we can help answer those. Gallagher and Associates has been a great help and has really, I think, driven some change also with our administrator, Blue Cross Blue Shield. Really, I think, helped force them to look at some things a little differently as well. So the recommendation that we have brought forth today is in your memo, was with a lot of work, a lot of discussion. I greatly appreciate the members of the committee. It's I think it's difficult and time-consuming work. Also like to thank Brittany and Brock, and I know Joy isn't with us any longer. She went to West Fargo, but kind of that executive committee that would get together with Gallagher in order to pour over data so that we can present monthly to our groups. Thank you very much for all your time and efforts on that. But our recommendation would be to approve this proposal, which comes forth from the Health Insurance Committee.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you presenting this, and thank you for all your years on this body. It's not easy sometimes being the messenger of not great news to your peers, and health insurance is one of those areas. So thank you for your service on that.
You're right.
I know it. And thanks to Jennifer as well for being the liaison and with your professional expertise. That's great. Jim?
I am going to make a motion here in a moment to accept this recommendation, but I also have a data request, because I'm pretty sure I had this same record a year ago, and maybe you won't recall, maybe you will. I don't actually like the fourth bullet point or arrow point with the word maintain. I think when we entered into the HSA plan, we made a decision to do a one-time deposit and to revisit that because, quite frankly, not everybody in our high deductible plan used any of the free money last year. So we're going to be layering an additional $1,000 or whatever, depending upon their class. So I'm going to support that again this year, but I'm here to tell you that absent some vote that would get me off the board, you're going to have to deal with me for a couple more years, and I'm going to want to see that data before we approve flushing another $1,000 at everybody on the high deductible plan year after year after year. And I understand the motivation when they first enter and move, so I'm not against that idea to give them seed money. In the private sector, and this might be something you could ask Gallagher about, I don't know of any company that does this annually. And I know lots of companies that have health savings accounts. There are many that have a matching formula that if the employee will put money in pre-tax, it'll get matched by the employer to a certain extent. So again, I'm going to make a motion to approve this as recommended by the committee, and I appreciate the committee's work. But I really think before I'm going to be in a position a year from now to do that again, I want some thorough analysis on what's going on with the health savings accounts, and are we making good decisions to just automatically put it back in every year. So with that, I'll make a motion that we accept the Health Insurance Committee recommendation and adopt this funding plan on the cost shares for calendar year 2016-17.
We have a motion? Second. And Jennifer, did you have a?
I do. Can I just sort of follow up to a couple of comments you just made, and perhaps Brock or John has something to respond to, but I'll just share with you that as you may or may not know, I do work for Johnson & Johnson, and we have an HSA, which I do participate in, and we do get, so there are private employers that do pay this $1,000 or $1,500. And then on top of that, there's an additional match if you take certain health tests as well. So people are doing it. So I can answer that question. I'm sure Gallagher can give you examples of other companies that do too. But I will also say to you that a vast majority of the employees of the district are participating in using, they're paying for coverage they don't use by staying in this traditional plan. And so it is cost effective for not only your employees, but also the district to move folks over to the high HSA plan. And those are numbers I think Gallagher can get for you, and it was discussed at length in the last several meetings, but I know that, you know, numbers were asked for there too. I think those are coming, but it is a cost savings for both employees and the district to get people to move to that plan, which is why most of the increase has been layered upon the other plan, one of the reasons.
So you're saying that in addition to the way you kind of structured the increases and that you structured this whole plan this year as an incentive to move more people, so these employer contributions are part of that incentive package until we get more than 10% moving over there, that was the thinking of the committee?
Well, I think this recommendation was based on for this year. I mean, it is part of the committee's discussion every year, at least, I mean, I've only been part of it now for 2, but both years, it wasn't just a given that this was going to stay. I think that, there's lots of things that play into that. So when I read it as maintain it, I read it as for this particular plan. I don't read it as for future, for next year, because as we know, healthcare is changing at a rapid pace. And so who knows what it'll look like next year, but.
Just for
Thank you.
information, we've had, the discussions are really focused on what Jim is saying is, we've talked about having a match, and should it be a dollar for dollar or percentage, or how should that work? We've also talked about it also being some incentive-driven type things. In order to get this chunk of money, you need to make sure you have had your your annual physical. You have to have, biometrics that are this. Or, can we set up more of a wellness piece that if you hit this mark, then you get this. If you hit this mark, you get this. An incentive-based thing, and that's many employers are going to that. There are some local ones that have that, like Jennifer is saying, that you get this first chunk, and then everything else is incentive or matching type. And those are discussions we've had for several years, and we just felt like to get more people to look at it, we really felt like to maintain what we started with last year for next year would be the best at this time.
So we have a motion and a second to accept this proposal. Any other questions or discussion? David?
I've got a quick question for either John or Jennifer. Is any comparison made of our benefit package to other districts of comparable size? So that we can brag that, we've not only got, the best starting salaries, we've got the best benefits and so on.
Yes, actually Brittany collected some of that, and what we're really seeing is that since we started the health savings account high deductible plan last year, there are many different districts now who are taking a look at that. I think I heard Johnny Carson say 8 years ago, he wants to live in North Dakota when the world comes to an end because it won't happen for 5 years. It's kind of that way with change. It's slow. It's a slow-moving change, and we take a look at what's Bismarck offering, what's West Fargo offering, Grand Forks, and so forth. And right now, the variance is so wide and so vast that it's really kind of it's difficult to say, but we're very competitive.
Any other questions?
Just
Oh,
real
sorry,
quick.
David.
I'm just wondering, when Fargo switched from September to January, what covered new hires for that period of time?
We had a plan in place for those 4 months. So we had a plan that was in place from September to December that everybody went on to last year, and then it became effective again January 1 this year.
Anyone else? Okay, Anne Marie, call the roll, please.
Johnson.
Yes.
Knutson.
Yes.
Paulson.
Yes.
Rodenbiker.
Yes.
Ulrich.
Yes.
Ani.
Yes.
Benson.
Yes.
Goldenberg.
Yes.
Boyd.
Yes, and thank you very much again for all your good work and bringing this to us tonight and explaining it. Appreciate it. Okay, this brings us to final approval of our budget, and Jim, if you will lead us off.
As you probably had noted, if you reviewed memo number 30, this is when we're putting forward our final approval on our current year's operating budget, 2016-17. In the narrative that Brock has put together, You will see that there are no changes from the preliminary budget approval back in June to the Special Assessment Fund, Building Fund, Special Levy Fund, and Nutrition Services Fund. There have been some modifications to the general fund, most of which were fully anticipated when we did preliminary approval back in June, because we really hadn't closed out the previous year back in June, both on the expenditure side and the revenue side. So I want to just take a moment to highlight the changes on that general fund, and then I'll put forward a motion. Hopefully that'll get seconded and we can open it up for discussion. On the overall revenue side of the general fund, it now appears that we're going to plan on about a 3.36% increase in total revenue for the year. There are really two drivers to this, although a number of numbers have been tweaked since our June approval. The first is on the property tax line itself. When we did the June approval, we had at that point in time collected $41,359,000 and change. Since that time, additional collections came in from that tax year and actually raised that by almost $600,000. In addition, as they were putting together, based on our preliminary budget numbers that the county had, looking at what our tax revenue should be, there are properties that have tax incentives on them throughout the city. Some might be Renaissance zones, some might be TIFs that were done for infrastructure changes. Properties that were given tax incentives that have lost the tax incentive come back on the tax rolls, and we are eligible to now participate on that additional valuation. So although we're still frozen on our local property taxes, when a project gets approved for tax increment financing, it will come off the rolls, so we will not collect on it, but they keep a debit account because theoretically it's owed to us at some future point in time. So it appears that little calculation is generating about $700 and some odd thousand for the district in the coming year, coupled with the additional collections. The other big driver on our revenue side, quite frankly, is just the state funding formula and how our ADM numbers ended up at last year and what the different weighting factors were. So those two were the primary drivers on changes on the revenue side. Again, based upon having some additional revenue to work with, Brock and his team, along with, I assume, the cabinet, looked at staffing levels, looked at where do we actually need to have some additional hiring if we can afford it. So just like the revenues went up a little bit, so will the expenditures, because you're going to see at the bottom line, we once again are looking at a completely balanced budget, no excess, no overage anticipated in the budget design itself. And again, every area of the expense side was looked at again based upon how it closed out last year. Tweaks were made in several categories, but the real significant changes primarily happened in the personnel area as they were looking at what's our new staffing numbers going to have to be. And obviously, as Brittany and her team hire new workers to replace those that are retiring, we don't always equate the retiring teacher to the retiring custodian to the exact cost of the new hires. Sometimes they're more affordable, but sometimes they cost us more because we replace somebody that had a BA with somebody that has a master's degree. So when that all got boiled down, our overall expenditures for the year on a budget basis are expected to go up 3.97%, and the vast majority of that is personnel, with one other driver, and that would be transportation, which has an automatic escalator on our busing contracts. Plus, over the course of the summer, they've mapped out some additional routes for buses because we have a new elementary school coming online. So that brought more routes, which come with an additional cost too. So there were some adjustments there. But again, it's still a balanced budget with expenditures at $150,858 to match the revenue line as well. With that, I'll put a motion forward, if the board would allow me to adopt all these budgets in one motion, that we'd approve our 2016-17 budgets for the general fund, the building fund, the special levy fund, the nutrition services fund, and the special assessment fund.
Second.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second to approve our various funds and the budget, special assessment fund, building fund, special levy fund, nutrition services fund, general fund budgets for 2016-17. Any discussion? Jim or Brock, one of the effects that, I mean, essentially, our local property tax dollars are frozen, except for that little bit that you talked about. And the result of that is we were not required to have a zero mill levy public meeting. Can you kind of explain what that was what that means?
I can try to. I'm not so sure you could get the same answer out of any two people in the state on that very question, Linda. If subdivisions of government are going to levy against taxpayers a increase in taxes on I'll call it on a per capita basis, because you have growth that can create new taxes itself. But you also have existing properties that can generate additional revenue if you've raised your mill levy, or if your assessed valuation goes up and you don't lower your mill levy, right? Because that will collect you more money. We are under the threshold that the state looks at and mandates that you hold a public hearing. So even though we're seeing a slight increase in our revenues, we're under that threshold that is used to determine whether or not you hold a public meeting. You may have seen in the newspaper, you may receive a letter in the mail that most of the other subdivisions of government around us are holding these meetings. We certainly held one last year, and our hope is that we'll get to hold them in the future, because it will mean we are no longer frozen. But based upon this budget, assuming we finalize it tonight and put it forward, it does not appear that we are an entity that has to hold a meeting. Did I cover that about right, Brock?
Thank you. Brock?
Madam President, members of the board, yes, and the only thing I would add to that is one of the things the formula in calculating zero mill levy increase accounts for is you get to subtract the value of new property. So anything that's new to the rolls, so that credit that we're seeing that we're getting now, plus any new development that's happened, that gets subtracted off, and then you look at what the new dollar value is, and then how many mills does it take if you only want the dollars you got last year, which is the frozen piece. So I think it's important to note that you do get to reduce that new property, which is why with all the development, it doesn't impact that growth number as well. Jim referenced the letters that went out. I know people have gotten them. As it ties to future conversations, this budget is built on what would in essence be a reduction of 11.95 mills in Fargo Public Schools District 1, which has our assumed mill rate being at 127.05. That, of course, will be finalized once we take this to the county and they do the final math. But the letters that were received, based on the numbers we knew at the time they sent them, reflects that information.
So in essence, the fact that we're frozen, our taxpayers realize a reduction in 11.9 mills on their taxes for our portion.
Yes and no.
Collectively.
Yes,
Collectively,
Not
not
individually.
individually, collectively, yes.
And that's all contingent on whether or not your house was reassessed and revalued.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right, and, oh, David?
I think that's an interesting point to bring up. We got the letter that you're talking about, and our taxes will go up. Our tax bill for next year is more. But on the bottom of the letter, it says that all three entities actually lowered the number of mills. That, you know, so we're gonna have to make it very clear to people that we have no control over what happens to the assessment of property. And, you know, even though we're doing our best, we can't control, if your house goes up 13 or 18%, that's not us.
Dr. Schatz?
Well, and I want this to be really clear, because as we look at the overall trend data on this, you look at 2006, we collected over $64 million in local property taxes. Today, we're collecting $44 million. And we have not raised taxes this year, basically, bottom line, for the school district. And we've lowered mills because of our freeze. And since we are frozen at the dollar amount, we are not taking in one extra penny, where other agencies can. And so even if they're lowering mills, they're still having access to assessed value increases. So that needs to be really clear. The school district is taking no extra dollars, period. And so that's our dilemma, is that as we move forward, this budget that you will approve tonight, hopefully, is the last time to have revenue streams that increased. Your federal dollars will be frozen, basically, your state dollars will be flat, and your local dollars are frozen. There is no additional new revenue stream coming in at any level of the income that we receive through all those sources. So this budget's the last time. So moving forward, if we don't get something to change, and cost goes up, and benefit packages, and all the things that you've already agreed to with regard to salary schedules and everything else, which increase each year, will increase the overall expenses without increased revenue. That has to be crystal clear to our public, because that's why we need to go back and say, will you support our schools at the current level of standard of effort? So I wanted that really to be clear.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anne Marie, if you'd call the roll, please.
Knutson.
Yes.
Paulson.
Yes.
Rodenbiker.
Yes.
Ulrich.
Yes.
Ani.
Yes.
Benson.
Yes.
Goldenberg.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Boyd.
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you very much. Brings us to monitoring of GPs 1, 2, and 3. I would entertain a motion.
I move that we accept the GPs as recorded.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to accept these GP 1, 2, and 3 as recorded. Is any discussion? Anyone want to add comments or elaborate on their comments that were made? Okay, Anne Marie, if you'd call the roll, please.
Paulson.
Yes.
Rodenbiker.
Yes.
Ulrich.
Yes.
Ani.
Yes.
Benson.
Yes.
Goldenberg.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Knutson.
Yes.
Boyd.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Brings us to board reports, and our first item of agenda is to appoint delegates, official delegates to, voting delegates to the North Dakota School Board Association. So Anne Marie tells me all 9 of us plan to attend. We need 5 official delegates, and the other of us, with the exception of Jim, who is and representative, so you are not eligible to be a delegate from here, will be alternates. So it involves staying through the business meeting on the second day, on Friday. So if, show of hands, who would like to be, I mean, we're all going to be there anyway, but just to be official, 1, 2, 3, 4, one more? 5. Okay, so John, Rebecca, Christy, David, and Dinah are official delegates. Thank you. And the rest of us are, with the exception of Jim, are alternates. That just means you get a real pretty color ribbon on your badge. Committee and liaison reports. Dinah, can we start with you this time?
Sure. So in the last couple of weeks, I went to the Eagles opening last night and to Ed Clapp PTA. And I attended the Arms Wide Open event at South and the Eggs and Issues event for the chamber, and I wanted to say that I'm really proud of our three superintendents in the greater Fargo, Moorhead, West Fargo area. For a long time, we used to get criticized as school districts that we were not collaborating with our neighboring districts, and yet we all knew that all sorts of collaborations were going on behind the scenes and that people didn't see. And now we've had several opportunities for all three of our superintendents to appear together on common ground, sharing the collaboration that's been going on for a long time. And I think that's a really positive thing for all three districts. And I'm impressed how well they prepare and don't repeat each other and divide the material up so it's very clear and succinct. And in both cases, I think they did a really nice job. So keep up the good work, both from the presentation perspective that's obvious, that becomes more public, but also for the stuff that's going on behind the scenes. I also wanted to share with you, I put it everybody's place. You may also know that I'm a member of the Imagine Thriving Board. And for anyone that doesn't know much about this organization, just briefly, we help sponsor the student wellness facilitators in the Fargo Public Schools. And this event is our big fundraiser for the evening. I know it's hard on a Monday night, especially those of you with small kids, for you and your spouse to perhaps attend. But even if one of you, if we had a board table or whatever or support would be fantastic. You will be impressed by our speakers. We have 3 students who are on our student board who will be sharing their stories. We have Dr. Schatz, who's going to share a little bit about our connection, the school district and the organization, and an amazing short video about some of the work that our kids are doing in this whole effort. So normally I wouldn't blab about this, but this is a direct benefit to the school district, the funds raised at this event. So if you're able to support, or even if you can't come to the event but would like to support the group, it's a great cause. And if you have any questions afterwards, I'd be happy to answer them. And there'll be a silent auction and couple of very special things on the silent auction, which I won't tell you about yet, and a few other fun things going on that evening. So thanks, that's it.
Thank you, Dinah. David?
I attended the chamber breakfast and the opening of the Eagle Center last night, and I think the thing that impressed me most is it just reinforced the quality of leadership that we have in this entire metro area. I really don't think it can be, matched anywhere in North Dakota. And I'm very appreciative of that.
Thank you. Chrissy?
I was at the Arms Wide Open last week, had the pleasure of being the official photographer. Communications Committee meeting yesterday, Eagles opening last night. This afternoon, I met with Jeff at Centennial and had a nice visit with him. And Thursday night, I'll be scooping ice cream.
Okay, sorry, I was worried that was my phone. Sorry. Brandy?
Well, I too attended the Eagles, the Arms Wide Open, and I've had a busy week because I went to Ben Franklin and was a judge for their You're Hired, and they all presented a new menu for the schools. It was pretty cute, and it was 6th graders, and it was really exciting to hear the ideas that they had for the different lunch menus. It was really cute because one of them had smoothies with cucumber and onion. So, I mean, it was really a good time. It was quite an experience at how smart these 6th graders are to be able to present a slide. So they're very much into wanting to change the school lunches. And then I did meet with my principals at South and Lewis and Clark, and they just really bragged about their wonderful staff that they have. And It's really cool. It really is.
Great, thank you. Well, and as for smoothies, I have someone I know quite well who asks the question, if tomato is actually a fruit, is ketchup a tomato smoothie? So, anything to fake healthy eating, I don't know. John?
I attended the Eggs and Issues. Thought that was, again, yeah, the superintendents did an amazing job. And also at Arms Wide Open, just representing us to the community so well. Thank you. The Eagles Elementary opening last night was great. I want to thank the previous school boards that made that possible. I got to stand there with scissors even though I had nothing to do with it, so. I saw Paul Myers was there. John Strawn and Rob Nelson, of course, were also involved in that, so thanks for that leadership. And looking very much forward to the ice cream social at CBH Thursday night.
Thank you. Jennifer?
Did you get to taste those cucumber and onion smoothies?
No.
Still trying to imagine it. So I took Dr. Schatz up on his invitation to meet up with him and tour the schools for my liaison schools. So I met up at Ben and Washington and had an opportunity to visit with the principals and some of the staff and visit some of the classrooms. And as many of you know, I attended Ben, so it was really fun to be back there. And I could not find the library. I don't know. It has moved since I was there, or maybe I just didn't go enough. I don't know. But anyway, I appreciate that. That was great. And then I did also go to Eggs and Issues and Arms Wide Open, and I would ditto the comments that were made. I too, the collaboration in this community, I think, is powerful. So it was a great example of that. And then as far as the communication committee report, GP7, we did discuss, and in terms of the timing, because that was brought up at the last board meeting. My understanding is it will now go back to governance, and the recommendation basically that came out of the that will be coming out of the communication committee will be that we move this review of this policy to June. And then, so it will come to us formally after it goes through governance, if I'm understanding the process correctly. Got it? Okay. And then we also discussed creating sort of a questionnaire, like, a few questions like we do our liaison forms in terms of our outside liaison assignments, because there are some on the list that no longer exist, and perhaps there are new ones that we would, should visit about and that might be appropriate. And so we talked about the timing of making that happen in May. So again, that'll come through when we discuss GP7 or GP8. So, and pretty much that's it. So, thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Rebecca?
All right, I have a few things here to share. So I also attended the ribbon cutting last night, the Eggs and Issues, and the Arms Wide Open. And yeah, I echo the comments. It was awesome to be able to be at one of our schools for that Arms Wide Open event. And I've attended all three of them, and they were all structured very differently, and obviously the presenters were different, and so then the information shared was different. But I felt like the last one, not because it was held at one of our schools, but I was just so impressed with the information. And I felt like every presenter, while they were presenting very serious information in regard to our community, was easy to engage with. And entertaining to a certain point from the stage, which hopefully that helps, draw people in. And I talked to one mother for quite some time afterwards, and, it's really great to be in a room filled like that with people that have common interests. I just walked away from it with lots of positive energy, because we're all trying to, get to the right place somehow. So thank you. And two fifth grade girls helped me cut the ribbon last night at the, those are sharp scissors too, by the way. Any rate, last night. And then as I went through the school, I don't know, we kind of seemed to find each other. And so they took me around, and they just had a fun time showing me the building. And I think they both came from Centennial. And I said, I mean, they seemed like such great friends. And I said, did you guys know each other before you came here? And they said, unfortunately not. So they're great friends, and we hung out for quite some time. As, you know, maybe you can imagine. The mayor was there towards the end, and they met the mayor before they left. Let's see. I was at the Native American Commission for that was my first meeting it was on September 1st. And then prior to that, they had a community picnic. And then you probably saw in the media that there was a march, a celebration on Veterans Bridge in regard to the pipeline issue. And so it was interesting because there were so many people that came to this picnic and then hung around and went to the bridge. And I didn't do the walk I had to leave for a bit, so I didn't do the walk from the park to the bridge, but I went to the bridge. And so who has served on the Native American Commission previously? And John, okay.
John and Robin. John did for several years, and previous to that, Robin did too.
So it's pretty cool the first time that you are there, because they have a special ceremony that honors the people that are, if anyone's leaving, and also welcome the new people in. And so I'm supposed to be all like and welcoming as a result of this. And they gave 2 gifts. I was gonna bring them, but it's a braided grass ring, and were my parting gifts. And as they said, not for smoking. And I have those in a little special place at home. But also at that meeting, which I felt historic for myself, just because of what is going on nationally in terms of conversation with the pipeline, and it doesn't really matter, you know, what we all think about that, but as individuals, but for that group, there was a resolution that was passed, and John made the motion to ask for a resolution for that group to put a resolution together, and I seconded it, and I just wanted to read just a couple of statements from it. So, quote, the Fargo Native American Commission now joins the 500 tribes and hundreds of cities in declaring our friendship and support to our North Dakota relatives. The construction and approval of the Dakota Access Oil Pipeline would endanger the health of Mother Earth, quality of water, ancestral lands, and future generations of the Standing Rock Sioux tribe, unquote. Now, those aren't specifically all of our, you know, this is the quote, this is the information that was put out from the Native American Commission. And I just thought that it was great that they, you know, they were able to do that, and I felt nice being able to be a part of that. And, oh, they're so welcoming, just everyone so welcoming with open arms, and so I'm excited to be able to meet really hundreds of new people. So thank you for the opportunity. And expect an email in regard to our GAC meeting date. Thank you for letting me go on and on.
Great, Rebecca, thank you. Jim?
We had a state school board meeting, mostly to decide if we wanted to take a position on the constitutional measure, which we did as a state association. Planning committee met. I think you saw the bulk of what we worked on, although we talked about some health insurance committee concerns. They were looking for some direction. And our next meeting for planning will be the last Friday of the month. I'm not sure what date that is.
First Friday.
Is it the first Friday? Yeah, you could be right. Yep. Okay. First Friday of the month. October 7th?
Let's hope it's the first Friday, because
And I think I reported on state GAC at the last board meeting, didn't I? So everything got approved and we're good to go there. That's it.
Great, thank you. You have my report here. I, too, attended the Chamber Eggs and Issues Breakfast and then the opening last night. But what struck me at that chamber event, in addition to the excellence that, that is much well-deserved, that everyone has mentioned about our leadership of those three superintendents, was just our turnout. I mean, you know, the turnout from the board and the cabinet, and, you know, we are an engaged body, and that's just so good to see and experience time and again. So thank you so much for making the time to go to all those things this past week. That's fantastic. I went to the Community Development Committee at City Hall, and the focus of a lot of that meeting was on neighborhood revitalization programs, but John Strand is Commissioner Sobolik's replacement. So that's one of the things that he used to talk about the most is, you know, what are we doing in these different neighborhoods? And so him being the city commission's representative along with the mayor on that committee is going to be great. I would like to call your attention on my report. The City Parks and Schools joint meeting, we talked about this in government, and we're really going to try to structure it so that all the elected officials can really use this as an opportunity to get to know each other better. The history of this is the three bodies didn't always, you know, communicate as well as could be. And I think you can see, for example, our three school districts now work so closely together. I would say the same with our three jurisdictions here. But as lead staff come and go, like with the Park District, and as board members come and go, these get-togethers, I think, are important for us to get to know each other as elected officials, even though the staff members work together all the time. So this is my plug for you to, for us to have another one of those really good showings. I think it's really worth it. I've been leaning on my counterparts to make sure the others show up as well. So our plan is, just so you're aware, 5:30 they'll be doing short tours of the school, especially for folks who haven't been there, and we'll have kind of a little appetizer, not actually a social hour, but people will be coming from work and they're hungry. And then we'll start at 6 o'clock, and there will be, we'll be asking each one of you for a little information about yourselves and what you think is issues as they relate to each of our groups. This is not necessarily the point where we're going to start diving into our mill levy issue. Those things kind of come a little further down the road, but it's a good chance, good opportunity to get to know what kinds of things are going on around the community as well. So hope to see you all there. It's my big plug. And that is all I have. Just a reminder to send the suggestions about David Marquardt's invitation for input. Send that to Anne Marie, and she'll gather that up, and we'll probably discuss that at governance. John.
I forgot one thing that I think I've attended since
Okay.
the last school board meeting, and maybe you'll remind me. The NEA, the National Endowment for the Arts, was it the director or the?
Yep, the national director.
The national
She had
director.
put out this invitation for local stakeholders, including school boards. So you attended that. That was nice to see you there.
Yeah, it was great, and it was 3 weeks ago, so it might as well have been a lifetime. It feels like. And the only reason I wanted to bring it up that I was there was because she was, number one, very complimentary to, again, how our arts community and our city and our schools and everybody's been working together in Fargo to create a very healthy arts environment. And also, she made a comment that really caught my attention, and it was that, I think as we all know, and as we've said many times in here, that one of the if not pretty much the key indicator of educational success is somebody's household income and their status there. And it's really hard to break through that issue and elevate their success when they have those kind of issues at home. And one of the things that has really been shown now time and time again to cut through that and to give those low income or troubled kids an opportunity for success is engagement with the arts. And so seeing everything we saw earlier tonight that we're doing with the arts and our summer programs, and that we see in our budget that we're investing in our people, I think it's really important for those disadvantaged people in our community. We're doing the right thing.
Great, thank you. Excellent way to end a meeting. Thank you very much for that. Amen. Our next meeting is September 27th, and thank you, we're adjourned.